Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome Jamie Lewis to the channel for another live. I think we just should dive straight into it tonight. But Jamie, the other day, I was watching your post about HIT, Arthur Jones, Casey Viator, Mike Mentzer, and it reminded me of this post the other day made by another of the HIT gurus, Dante Trudell. He's famous for like the dog crap system from years ago, back in the 90s. That I followed.
It is shit. It is shit. It's well named. It's well named.
But he was making a post basically bragging about how great his health is after all these years of hardcore bodybuilding. And I just happened to make this little throwaway attempt at humor saying along the lines of, hey, Dante, you know, the best way to tempt the gods of fate is to brag about how healthy you are on social media. You know, take a note out of John Meadows or Doug Brinoli's book, for example. And he absolutely shit the bed and spat the dummy. And he basically, long story short, deleted me and blocked me forever. So it got me sort of thinking.
Didn't he get your Instagram deleted as well? Oh, no, that was an entirely different post. I'm sure that contributed. Yeah. Boy, you had quite the day.
That's a conversation for another live. But it got me thinking of this, kind of like this pathology associated with guys who gravitate towards HIT, which you're going to go into now. Because, I don't know, anybody that gets involved with that form of training for any lengthy period of time, it never ends well.
Well, they don't like training, so they shouldn't be in the gym anyway. They should go do something else. Like if you only want to, all right. So lifting's a hobby, right? I mean, do you have any other hobbies other than lifting? What are your hobbies? Do you like to surf or something? You live in Australia. What do? Get stung by poisonous insects?
Hiking, camping, you know, doing those sorts of things. But
do you make sure that you limit yourself to 30 minutes twice a week on those things so you don't overdo it on their hobby?
No, it's typically 2 full days on the weekend.
Yeah, that's kind of how hobbies go. You can't wait to do them, and you do them as much as you can. Like all of your free time goes to your hobby. Not for the Mentzers, because their hobby was methamphetamine. It was not lifting weights. Their hobby was meth. And so I thought they died of vaguely natural causes associated with steroid use and methamphetamines. But as it turns out, they were just vicious drug addicts who died of their drugs, as you've informed me, because I'm not clued into. All I saw was the official toxicology report. You were like, oh, they died of meth, and I don't know what else.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting because I never really knew about it. It's you know, as well, because for years the story or the narrative that had been peddled was that Mike died of a heart attack, and Ray was already on dialysis with renal failure, and then the shock and the sadness of seeing that his brother passed away, he died within 48 hours. But that's not exactly how it went down. Apparently, you know, according to...
He died of a broken heart.
Exactly, yeah. Ed Connors, Mike died smoking a joint laced with fentanyl, and... Ray,
so that blows my mind because I didn't even know fentanyl was on the scene back then. But yeah, it does crack me up because there was a guy from North Georgia Barbell I met whose pre-workout stack was to take check drops, and then he would smoke a shitload of indica with his check drops so it would balance him out. And I was like, okay, doesn't that just cancel each other out? But I don't know. He had a method. So I guess this is similar to Mike Mentzer's method. This is like the stay fat on meth method. Take fentanyl with your meth.
Yeah, and it was just funny as well because Jerry Brainham, you know, who's quite in the know in the industry as well, and he was basically corroborated it by looking at the toxicology and the autopsy report saying that both guys basically died of lethal amounts of opioids in their system. So painkillers, yeah. So.
Well, Nubane was a real big thing at that point, right?
Absolutely.
That was the Nubane years. But yeah, good riddance. Good riddance to both of them. And yeah, so another one of your critiques, because I said they died of heart attacks, and you were like, no, they died of drugs. Another way in which I was wrong was you said that Ray Mentzer was a good bodybuilder, and that I was incorrect because he won both the IFBB and the AAU Mr. America against no one in 1979. And you do have points there, except for the fact that in 1979, nobody gave a fuck about the AAU Mr. America, and nobody had ever given a fuck about the IFBB Mr. America. So again, he beat nobody, and he had 2 hollow titles nobody gave a shit about. So
I will concede that point. But what was a good contest then around it in
The only person he
1979?
beat was Pete Grimkowski, who lived under a bridge. He was eating old McDonald's and lived under a bridge. So that's who he beat. Good job. Tip of the cap.
Take us back to where it all began in your rant for the people that haven't seen it on your Instagram. And I do recommend that people go and check that one out because it's great on Jamie's Instagram, Plague of Strength. But take us back to the beginning with Arthur Jones, who was like the progenitor of this. Well, actually, he's not even the progenitor because he stole most of his work from Eric Peterson as it stands.
Yes.
So
yes.
Fill us in on the interesting Arthur Jones backstory that most people don't even know about.
So I kept getting these comments. Arthur Jones was a brilliant scientist, and he was a brilliant this and a brilliant that, and he did all these things. And I was like, well, no, he did. He certainly didn't. He didn't. But let's talk about, well, number one, he was not a scientist in any way, shape, or form. And any scientist of any salt would probably cage fight anybody to death about him being labeled a scientist. So let's start there. And then he was a good exercise equipment inventor. He did invent Nautilus, which was useful equipment, although it did kill the pullover. So again, he fucked up the world there again. Now you have notes about that. So why don't we just talk about the exercise equipment first? Because I thought he founded Nautilus, he founded MedX, he kind of changed the way, because he changed the shape of the cams in machines. For anybody who's interested, they had round cams on the machines where the pulley would be, and he switched it to oblong shapes that would try to change the force distribution to make it more even. And so you said that was actually his son's idea.
Well, Gary Jones was kind of more the engineering, more the inventive mind, that Arthur Jones kind of almost like deferred to a lot in a way. So when Arthur Jones, wrapped up his enterprises, Gary Jones, as we know, went on to make hammer strength equipment. And I don't know, he seemed to be the real brains of the bunch. I'd like to go into the story a little bit more, and there's a couple of books that Gary himself's written, but yeah, that's what I've kind of pieced together from my research. Okay,
so Arthur Jones didn't even make Nautilus. What Arthur Jones did do, he started a roadside zoo when he was young, because he liked to kill animals that didn't know they were playing a hunting game, and he had a roadside crocodile petting zoo or some shit in Florida. And then he started going to Africa to go murder animals and bring them back. And he claims he killed over 630 elephants, which is really fucking impressive. And then he started a zoo in Florida with over 90 elephants that he experimented on, although he did promise that he did not do any vivisection on them. And which is really cool. He had a gorilla. He had 600 snakes. He had 500 crocodiles and alligators or something like that. So he was a big game hunter who badly managed a zoo you could only access by plane. So he started a community to live in around the zoo that you could only get there to fly in. So John Travolta lives there, which is the reason why Arthur Jones had any money to make these stupid lifting machines. But so he started flying lifters in to work out on these Nautilus machines. And did I mention the fact that he had 6 wives in this time to produce these sons? Yeah, so he had 6 wives between the ages of 16 and 20. And he divorced all of them in that time period. So he was real cool there because he really liked underage girls. So his son, by one of these underage women, by one of these, legal children, they were the ones behind Nautilus and MedX and Hammer Strength, right? So he didn't even do that. And he stole the workout routine from Eric Peterson, who came in, he was in the 1940s. And then he misapplied it and if you look at Arthur Jones's notes, originally the way he was having people do these workouts was in rounds, the way the old school did it. So you didn't do sets and reps. You did one set of each thing in a round, and then you went back through and did all the exercises again, which is how Arthur Jones had people doing HIIT at first. But then it was more common for people to do sets and reps at this time, so he switched it to that, which was a less effective thing. But given the fact the whole thing was ineffective in the first place, it didn't fucking matter. And so yeah, he paid these people to say they were using a workout program they didn't use at all. And Casey Viator, for instance, in the Colorado experiment, was it he had already been Mr. America. He was 216 pounds or something as Mr. America, lost a couple of fingers in an industrial accident, got depressed and went down to 166 pounds. Arthur Jones put him in his little experiment where he did what people in rehab do, which is just fill people with food who have been starving themselves out of depression and drug abuse and stuff like that. Fill them with food and have them exercise every now and again. You don't push them too hard. You just let them do what they want to do, and they blow the fuck up, which is what happened with Casey Jones. And it's also one of the many, many reasons why it's not an experiment, because you could not reproduce those results. So it is not a valid experiment.
You didn't like Casey Viator's physique? Because I remember you said that he was a shit bodybuilder. Was that your take on Casey?
He had a good physique, but he wasn't a great bodybuilder. What did he do? He didn't do shit. He won Mr. America and then didn't compete for like 6 years. Kind of fucked around in the placings, didn't really do all that well, and then lost some fingers and never did shit. The second Arthur Jones got a hold of him, he didn't do a fucking thing. But that dude trained 3 to 4 hours a day. Like, he was crazy strong too. So, like, I mean, he's a credit as a lifter. Casey Viator was a beast. But yeah, he should have switched with Casey Jones or with Arthur Jones, taken the Casey Jones name, competed in a hockey mask, and Arthur Jones should have stolen Jerry Brainham's name, because with that big ass forehead and been, Arthur Brainham, and it would have worked out much better. I feel like their placings would have gone better. The whole gimmick would have worked better.
Going back to your initial criticism of HIT about how much these guys hate training, I've noticed that as a common theme of anybody who gets really deep into the HIT methodology as their sole principal method of exercise is that it ends up either destroying them physically, burning them out, and then they never train again after a period of time. So if you look at Casey Viator, scared off training, Dorian Yates even, once he was kind of done, in his mid-30s, he never really went back to training. He did other things, but same with the Mentzer boys, after Mike Mentzer spat the dummy in 80, he never went back to it. Ray never went back to it. These guys just seem to fizzle out once they do HIT for any length of time.
It's easy to understand because, again, it's a hobby. Even if you're just saying you're exercising, like, say you work out typically like 5 or 6 times a week. Of those 6 workouts, you'll have 2 amazing workouts, 2 okay workouts, and 2 shitty workouts. It's just how it fucking goes. Like, you can't be on point all the time. And so I guess the idea was, well, we'll just take out all the filler workouts but you don't know when the fuck you're going to have a filler workout and when you're going to have a great day. You don't know when Instagram's going to fucking shut your shit down and your brain's going to fucking melt. Or, you don't know when you're going to get fired from your job, or you don't know when your girlfriend's going to leave you, or any of the tiny little things that fuck up your training in a day. Like, you don't know when your kid's going to get sick, or you're fucking going to, spill coffee on your pants and have to drive home to get pants, and then you can't, then your training's fucked up. Like, there's so many different ways to fuck up your training that if you put all of your eggs into, I'm going to do everything I got to do in 30 fucking minutes twice a week, that's crazy. Nobody can operate like that. Then it's life or death every time you go in the gym. Who wants to train like that? It's not cool. It's not fun. And it's also not effective.
Yeah. And when you say that as well, I think about because a lot of people were asking on your Instagram about what was Dorian Yates associated.
Yeah. Casey Viator. Was that Casey Viator took 3rd at the O in 82? That was before Arthur Jones. Arthur Jones happened 83.
I didn't know.
But he did take 3rd at the 82 I guess. Hey, good on him.
The 82 Olympia wasn't exactly renowned for its caliber of competitors.
No, 80. What was it? 80 through 85 was pretty much trash. But 80 through 83, they were just like, we're not really doing shit this year. You can show up if you want.
Yeah, but a lot of people are also asking about Dorian's association with the HIT guys because, when he first came along, he was paying a little bit of homage to Arthur Jones and Mike Mentzer, saying that they were massive inspirations to him and his training style. But even Dorian, once his whole, kind of training was typified by this hardcore, non-fun, working class, industrial kind of mentality that had never really been seen before, because Viator had always promoted bodybuilding as a fun activity that you do by the beach that attracts girls and, sun, surf, and sand. But Dorian kind of flipped it on its head and made it seem like it was something that was, painful, not enjoyable. You didn't talk to anybody. You got in there, you killed yourself for 45 minutes, you got the fuck out, and you only did it 3 to 4 times a week. And again, within a few years, he was busted up and broken and never competed or trained again. And, even Dorian's kind of had this legacy now where he's this now tinfoil hat wearing, Holocaust denying.
Oh my God, is he really? Oh, that tracks, because Arthur Jones moved to Rhodesia in the 1960s, moved his whole family to Rhodesia, which was a breakaway republic from South Africa for whites only, where they were like, yeah, we need more slavery than we got in South Africa. Let's do Rhodesia. He fucking moved there. That man was a piece of shit in every fucking direction he could have been. I can't believe Sergio didn't just pull his little fucking gigantic head off his skinny little fucking body. Jesus. I can't imagine how anybody... he must have just been stuffing money in people's pockets while he was grabbing at their dick.
Yes, well, I don't think we've got much more to really add to the HIT topic. That's kind of done it all there for us.
Oh, well, actually, no. We had a bunch of questions about Dorian. He is the worst physique of any champion ever in history, bar none. I've never liked the aesthetic. I've never liked the guy. I've never liked anything about him. So I don't know shit about him. And I kept telling people that in the comments. You, however, and some other people said he did like 7 warm-up sets and then did 2 hard sets. So he was still doing like 9-10 sets per exercise, right?
Yeah. The thing that I find a little bit hard to kind of reconcile with Dorian Yates' training as it being high-intensity training is he still did a lot of volume if you counted up all the sets, which put him in the range of what everyone was traditionally doing and what people had always done. And
the Mentzers, you look at Mike Mentzer's workouts, and he has a journal that he published. Jerry, who was it that Peter McGaugh did that article on him, and he has it in there. He was running 5 miles and biking 20 miles a day and working out for 2 hours and posing for an hour, and like it was just on and on and on.
Exactly. And any guy from the time, say, for example, Mark Martinez, who did the Dream Big documentary, he used to train alongside Mentzer. There's fucking photos with him, actually in the photo with Mentzer in the background. And he was saying that Mike always did traditional training. Ed Connors as well said when he owned Golds, Mike would always do very long workouts and long bike rides on the beach. As you said, that's where they got the idea to bring the bikes into the gym. But yeah, it was exactly. Yeah. But it was, at the end of the day, just like the Colorado experiment, this fucking marketing.
That's what it is.
Experiment more than anything that just kind of misled a whole generation of lifters into thinking that they could get away with doing less. Okay, putting a little bit of intensity into it, which is always a good thing. But like you said, it sucked the fun out of training there for a real long time until people realize that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And yes, you can use it a little, now and again, as a way to shake up your training or to shake off even a little bit of fatigue accumulation, but it's not something that you should dogmatically adhere to, I think, for years at a time. You're really going to shoot yourself in the foot and send yourself mad on a course of amphetamine usage, I guess.
Yeah, and possibly like virulent racism. I mean, there's a lot of weird shit that goes into that. I think we've adequately covered the pile of trash that HIT and everyone associated with it is.
I expected to see more comments and questions, drilling us about the HIT topic, but everybody's either stunned into silence or we've covered it pretty comprehensively. But
HIT, hellish inefficient training. Yeah, that pretty much covers it.
There. Exactly. Yeah. That's why I also say, the holy idiot trinity with Mike Mentzer and Arthur Jones and Casey Viator. But speaking of amphetamines, Jamie, what was the first supplement that you ever took? I'm curious to know.
The first supplement. So I know that I distinctly recall buying my first protein powder, which tasted amazing. It was worldwide nutrition, I think, but it was a vanilla ice cream flavor and it was fucking delicious. Which is weird, but it really set the bar high and never really went back there. I mean, we had a couple of years where protein tasted pretty good, but it's been mostly shit. But that, and I was a big Ultimate Orange. It was Ultimate Orange. Ultimate Orange was my first pre. It was Ultimate Orange and then Metaform Heat, which was like, Metaform was Weeder's ripoff of Metrex, and everything tasted way worse because it was Weeder. And Metaform Heat was a 20 milligram meal replacement shake with caffeine and ephedra mixed into it, and it only came in 2 flavors: raspberry chocolate and orange creamsicle, and both of them made you throw up. So it was like, which one made you throw up less? And then so you had to hold your nose to drink it, and then you would try to hold it down while you were exercising, because I was wrestling at the time. So like people would be puking in the trash cans constantly because we were just fucking hyperventilating from all the amphetamine shit in there. Like, just crazy. It was who's Glenn Hannaford?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah, but there's definitely been some wild shit that's come and gone over the years. And I remember there's a good chapter in your book, Bite Size History, about Russian Bear. Remember Val Vasilev? Can you talk a little bit more about him?
Val Vasilev, I mean, I didn't prep on Val, so I'm going off memory, but so he had like a doo-wop rock track. First off, he kind of looked like Elvis, and he had like this doo-wop rock track that kind of bops. And so he was a musician, and then he became Mr. America. He was an immigrant from like Bulgaria or something, or Russia or some shit. And yeah, but he was crazy strong too. But we always thought of him as like a goof because he was hawking this Russian bear shit in the back of like comic books, and he was dressed like a caveman in the ads, and like he looked kind of buff, but he also just looked like a goof. So like I never took it seriously, didn't know he was a badass. But Russian Bear was one of these. It was a weight gainer in like a normal 2-pound jug, but it was like 3 servings in there, 5,000 calories of this shit. It's like, if you just fucking spent that money on peanut butter and white bread, you would blow the fuck up. What are you doing buying that bottle? So I never really put much stock in that, man.
Was the rumors true, do you think, about, because it was very similar with Hot Stuff as well. There was this all-in-one kitchen sink product back in the late 80s or early 90s where they just chucked every ingredient that they could think that pertains or was related to bodybuilding. And
GNC used to be filled with these things, with these kitchen sink weight gainers that had every Smilax and like all this shit you never heard of. They threw it was like animal pack thrown in a protein. It was, oh my God, it was wild.
The funny thing about Hot Stuff, and I think also what you wrote about in Bite Size History about Russian Bear, is it was tainted, or at least the initial batches were, until people caught on with it, with methyl testosterone.
Well, methyl test was the first steroid that people used, like in 1954. That's what York Barbell started using, and John Grimmick. I don't know if you've ever taken methyl test. It doesn't fucking build muscle. It just makes you crazy aggressive. Like, it makes you crazy, crazy, crazy aggressive. It's the same as check drops.
Apparently, it's highly androgenic and it's highly estrogenic at the same time. I think it's kind of like very close. This is why they developed.
It'll give you bitch tits, zits, and roid rage, but it will not build any muscle.
Yeah, because basically the Soviets were using a lot of methyl testosterone. That's why they had to be cathetized. So,
oh my God,
that's why Ziegler went back and sort of thought we've got to tweak this somehow, and that's where Dianabol eventuated.
Yeah, that Golden Age bookworm guy got that totally fucking wrong. He was like, John Grimmick was injecting 500 to 600 milligrams of test. And he shows in the picture it's methyl test, and it comes in 15 milligram tabs. So what was he, crushing it up and fucking banging it? Get the fuck out of here. We got to answer this question. It's green. I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's a donation from Donnie King. Thank you so much, mate. What about Lee Haney? Apparently he was a low volume, low rep, none to failure trainer. Definitely not low volume. He was up there around the 15 to 20 sets per body part. Do you know anything more about Lee Haney? He used to say stimulate, don't annihilate. And the thing is, the HIT guys, they actually misappropriated that from Lee Haney, because then they sort of thought stimulate, don't annihilate meant that you kept your volume and your volume low and your intensity high. But no, Lee Haney was actually warning people to stay the fuck away from, training to failure and keep the volume high. So that's where the stimulate, don't annihilate come from.
I was looking to see if he was in that book. He's not. Lee Haney's never interested me, and like nothing against Lee Haney. Like, I've always written about the fucking maniacs. So he didn't have a particularly interesting physique, and nothing against like Christians. He seems like a really, really nice man, but it's just like he was just boring as shit. And that era of bodybuilding wasn't great. Like I found the interest in the bodybuilders of the 80s and 90s in the lower placings, like 2nd to 10 were way more interesting than the number 1 because they just kept putting the same person in first. And it was like, no matter who else showed up, Bertil Fox shows up like 6 inches shorter and 10 pounds heavier. And they're like, ah, fuck it, give it to fucking Lee Haney. You know what I mean? It's just like, whatever. I don't know if he was 6 inches
in a time of very kind of short in stature and very small bodybuilders. He was kind of like Arnold 2.0 in a way. And I sort of thought that he did have a great physique. But bodybuilders are only as ever interesting as their characters and their backstory and how the magazines could paint them up, in a way. And Lee was just so straight edged. There was no dirt that they could dish on him. There was no kind of interesting backstory. He married and is still married to his childhood sweetheart. You can't. He
was living the gimmick that Hulk Hogan was selling. That whole like take your vitamins and say your prayers and shit. That is Lee Haney. So the dude is legit as fuck. And I do not want to take anything away from him. I just never found him compelling as a lifter.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, Lee was definitely all about that volume. Back to the supplements, though. I was going to ask you: is there anything that you missed? Because a lot of supplements have kind of come and gone over the years. Remember we had like Superdrol that you could buy over the counter. You had your androstendiones. You had all those pro hormones, which were basically Patrick Arnold invented steroids that they were selling over the counter. But the early 2000s and the late 90s were truly the glory years when it comes to when it came to supplements. And it just seems that nothing interesting or innovative comes down the pike anymore, supplement wise. What are the things that you miss, mate?
Man, you guys are just buckle up because you guys missed out. So the Wild West of the supplement era was really like 2000. So this was a much less politically correct. Everybody's going 100,000% at everything. And so when you got to the Arnold or you got to the Olympia, this is no part of a lie. There was a protein bar called midget bars, and they were short protein bars. And they had little people on tricycles riding around the Arnold and the Olympia throwing fucking midget bars at people. And they had strippers dancing on poles at the VPX booth. And like, it was fucking crazy. So the shit we got to try was amazing. And I would say there are 3 things that I really miss in supplements, and one of them was there were these little protein bites that you could buy. They came in a little package. They only had like 16 grams of protein per pack, but they were like protein M&Ms, and they were fucking amazing. And like you would eat 2 bags of M&Ms and get 30 grams of protein and feel like you won the fucking lottery. Because it was just stupid, but it was like such a delicious snack that had a ton of protein in it. They used to have air popped protein popcorn bites too that were like, it was like Rice Krispie treats, but they were made of protein. And so those were fucking amazing too. Lee Haney said his body couldn't do the training like Dorian. Yeah. He wanted longevity in training rather than fucking it up. That's why he still looks so good. Yeah. I mean, well, Dorian is an anti-vaxxer who does yoga.
100%.
I guess I've heard of white women who do that, but I didn't even know that was a thing. Oh, they have protein puffs in Australia. Well, that's cool. Lucky you guys. But I also loved, there was a supplement called Nuclear Garbage that was one of the last like ephedrine and caffeine stacks. That shit was it was perfect. Like you'd get crazy hyped, but it was just short of being like the shaking, like too overhyped. Because I find that that's a problem with ephedrine is like you get too there, you're just overhyped and your body is shaking. You can't like get under a weight and fucking move it. So those were 2, and then I had a third one, and now it's vanished. Nuclear Garbage, the protein bites. That doesn't matter. Go ahead. What are yours? Do you have any?
I was a bit of a stim junkie, especially like when the Jack 3D and Craze came out. But remember how it basically came out a short time later when they took all these things off the market, that they had amphetamine analogs in them. So we were basically guinea pigs for all the shit. And up until that time, mate, like I think I was 40 before I even started having any caffeine. So the very first thing I started on when it came to stimulants was Jack 3D and Craze. So
man, you missed out on fucking Redline concentrate. It was so Redline. You're aware of Redline? It came before Bang.
Yeah, we never got it in Australia though. I don't think it never came here. So
So it was like this red poison flavored caffeine drink, and it was already like kind of thick and syrupy, but they had a concentrate version, which a spoonful had 300 milligrams of caffeine. And bro, we were doing double shots of Jaeger and spoonfuls of fucking, I don't know how the fuck I lived through it. I mean, we would be so hyped up on caffeine and red line. We would run and rip fucking stop signs out of the ground and like carry around like stone benches and shit and see how far we could throw them. We were out of our minds. But yeah, Rich Gaspar is a piece of shit. He is a piece of
and on
nitrogen
the
spiking, thieving shit. Fuck that man. And his physique's trash now too. He looks like fucking garbage. That man was nothing but gear from start to finish. Fuck that little man. Little fucking
because he was really cornering the supplement market there for a while, and then it came out that his amino acids or his protein powders were all spiked.
I was the one who started fucking ringing the bell on that because it was
100%. I was just about to say that you were the first person to fucking make everybody aware of it as well. So,
and just so I'll tell everybody how it didn't take a fucking sleuth to figure it out. You'd make a protein shake, you could leave your shaker cup uncleaned for a week, open it up, and be like, I don't have to throw this away. That actually happened with a protein. And I was like, well, this could not be good. Was he the gay guy? Come on now, Whoa, Black Betty. Number one, everybody that we've talked about so far has used amphetamines, in which case, by your standards, they are gay. Because you don't do amphetamines. You don't do amphetamines and not suck dick. But yeah, except for Lee Haney, because he never did amphetamines. But yeah. But yeah. Let us not disparage Lee Haney. There's nothing. Lee Haney's a nice guy. He is everything he's ever said he was, insofar as I know.
I think also with that red line drink, because you're going to tell us about the president of VPX. Was that the same company?
Oh yeah, he went fucking crazy. He went crazy recently. His fortunes are going up in flames just as fast as Musk and Trump. That guy, it's fucking crazy. So like he's been banned from. They've got restraining orders against him, so he can't even post about VPX anymore. And like he and his weird ass wife, they have a million weird ass looking little kids. They must be related, his wife and him, because they have produced some very odd looking progeny. And but yeah, he's been barred from ever talking about that company again because he's such a fucking lunatic. I mean, he was always a maniac, but he used to make videos talking about how Lindsay Lohan was coked up, and it's like, bro, you literally have dust on your nose talking about people on coke. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, he's in there with the My Pillow crew now.
Yeah, like even the supplement manufacturers and the like say for example, Bill Phillips, Bob Hoffman, they all have this weird eccentricity about them that they're just fucking 3 parts con man, 2 parts fucking religious evangelists. I don't know. They've got the weirdest personalities come out of the supplement industry, don't they? And I was like kind of assumed there for a long time that back in the 80s, a lot of them were just ex-drug dealers who then parlayed their money into legitimate supplements as a way to like launder their money.
Dennis Tinerino.
Yeah.
Dennis Tinerino. He was one of the guys who beat Ray Mentzer. A guy who placed better than Ray Mentzer in contests was Dennis Tinerino, who was a crack dealer who had a terrible physique and no legs, and he still beat Ray Mentzer. He became an evangelical preacher afterwards. And in like the 20 years he was an evangelical preacher, didn't give one single penny to the poor. Not one. He took a lot of donations. Didn't give any money to the poor, though.
That's how it works. Did you ever try Bob Hoffman's old protein powder that came out? That was one of the first.
That was before me. That was way before me.
Well before our time. Yeah. The other big one back in the day.
I did try Rio Blair's, the Rio Blair shit.
No, I've never tried it. No.
It tastes really good. It costs $1 billion, but it tastes great.
I can imagine someone on eBay is selling a unused carton there for a while. Lou Ferrigno suing his family for you. Yeah, I recently released a video talking about how Lou Ferrigno has sued his family, his father and his brother's gym, because they painted the walls Hulk green, and he said he had kind of like a copyright over that Hulk green color, and that they weren't to use it. He's
renowned for being a piece of shit. Like you could get a kid from the Make-A-Wish Foundation to be like, "Hey, could you give me an autograph for my like I'm about to die?" And he'd be like, "That's $75." Exactly. No lie, no cap, no cap. He will charge a dying child for a fucking autograph.
Yeah, and I heard stories as well of people actually sort of saying that if they took just random photos of him at an expo, he'd have his security team chase him down and delete the photo. It's fucking wild, isn't it? That a guy could be that hard up for cash.
Who's going to be bullied by, who's going to be, like, we all show up to these things jacked as shit, like filled with fucking D-ball, tanned as hell. Like, I've seen pictures of you at the Olympia. You showed up the same way I did. Like, I took a picture with Greg Valentino. You wouldn't even believe it was me. I'm so tanned and like in a fucking one of those bedazzled shirts and shit. It was ridiculous. But like, who's being bullied by the Lou Ferrigno's security team? Just tell them to go fuck themselves. Like, Jesus.
Just as the last segue before we finish up for the evening or for the morning there for you, is that show Physical 100. I suppose.
I love it.
Might watch that as well. Yeah, I was going to get your thoughts on it because I've been catching a couple of the episodes down here, and obviously they're now up to the second series. What do you make of the whole thing in terms of the physiques, the physicality, the athleticism, just the diversity of the characters on the show? What do you like it?
I absolutely love that show. My primary gripe with it is that so you're building a team, like, and when you see people build teams of superheroes, they do it all fucked up. So they give everybody the same powers, or everybody's just some god-powered person. So it's like there's no roles filled. There's nobody doing a task. It's just everybody is the most powerful person. So like that one little wrestler guy on season 2 filled his whole team with, like, one guy's name was Thanos, like just all the most muscular dudes. And he could have easily picked that little jacked as fuck female, the blonde haired girl who was a fucking monster. And she trashed everybody in that singles competition. Like, she just got fucked. And it's because those guys didn't even look at the women until they had chosen down to the last scrawny non-lifter dude. And it's like, what the fuck is happening in people's heads? Do they not watch American Ninja Warrior, where women are beating men all the time, or CrossFit, women beat men all the time, but they just don't fucking think? So it just didn't make any sense to me, the way they chose their people. But aside from that, I love that show. And I mean, I even love being able to get pissed off about that show. And like, being able to gripe about it is half as much fun as watching these insanely jacked people proving my point that the best athletes that people want to watch are between 5'6" and 5'10" and between about 175 and 210 pounds. That's the sweet spot. If you're outside of that, all these people are like, I want to be 6 feet tall. Fine. Nobody's going to fucking watch you on TV. That's just how it's going to be.
I've been surprised at the athleticism and speed and even the strength of some of the bodybuilders which have shown up, because I thought they would get dominated in a lot of those activities because, they're just
that little
training
blonde chick tore it up.
To go.
Yeah.
But so they're actually impressive. And I love how the contestants, probably based on the Korean like culture and their honor system, but they tend to select opponents which are almost like level in ability, or they will give like a fair match. They don't just take almost like a little bit of empathy.
You missed one of the comments in the in that show where they actually, one of the guys pointed out, like, this is really fucked up that all these little dudes are picking on these women. Because in the battle, the battle thing where they had a battle over the ball, they didn't show us all the women getting wiped out by little scrawny dudes picking on them. So, but again, I'd like, just, what you're going into, so show up more prepared. It's not a matter of women can't compete. It's a matter of those women didn't show up prepared to fucking brawl, and they knew what the fuck they were doing. That little blonde chick showed up ready to fucking go.
I love that they pit the men against the women as well, because it really does create like the level playing field. And I love that there's no fucking sob stories, of any of the athletes. You don't see them you know how like in every American or Australian or Western show, it's always got, I battled cancer to get here and I fucking blah, blah, blah. But speaking of that, like, as you mentioned, American Ninja, do you think a show like that would even work in America? Or how do you think the personalities would get along? Would they have even the same caliber of athletes?
Well, number one, I don't think the show would work nearly as well because, I mean, even the American on this, one of the Americans on this episode, where the Koreans are, I love the fact, because you're not competing against each other on that show. You're competing against yourself to push yourself as hard as you can. So there's no reason to shit talk your opposition because you're all there trying to do your fucking best. So I love that about the Koreans being like cheering each other on, being really respectful, really chill and cool, and like that's the environment where you want to push yourself to the ultimate limit because Dennis did get one judge, Mike Walczak, to give Tinerino first place at the 80 Mr. Olympia. He probably gave him a bunch of big bag of crack or something. But or he might have had other drugs too. Maybe he was the meth dealer for Mentzer. Who knows? But so Physical 100 though, I love it and it makes me train harder. Like the whole time I'm watching Physical 100, I'm stretching. I'm like in the rings doing a fucking pec stretches and like trying to get my fucking pec deltoid and to stop being a pile of shit. Like I'm just constantly motivated by that. So I love it. I go way harder in the gym now. I've started doing twisting movements and like shit that I'm like, oh shit, I didn't ever even thought that I needed to train that. I better train that. So
yeah, it's got such great energy about it as well. Like you said, it's the perfect pre-workout kind of motivation. If you watch an episode of that, you just feel so ready to get back in the gym and get after it because, the physiques across the board are really impressive with most of the people on there. And it's like you say, because they put a lot of work, effort and fun and love into what they're doing. And you can obviously see that, in the way that they talk about the sport and train. So, yeah really impressed with
the whole concept is amazing. They get 100 people from every different sport and physical background in the world, men, women, every age group, and then they just put them together. And in this one, I mean, we had multiple gold medalists in wrestling in the Olympics, multiple gold medalists in judo in the Olympics. That the CrossFitter guy, he apparently was no fun. He was an elite CrossFitter, then got into a car accident and couldn't be an elite CrossFitter anymore. So like we got to see elite CrossFitters go against Olympic gold medalists in two sports that are like go, 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 go.
Yeah. And military guys and everything. And that would never happen, because I was just going to say, like, before we answer the questions,
sure.
I can just imagine, like, if they had an Australian version, it would be like a shit mix of basically Instagram influencers and CrossFit junkies, or it just wouldn't work here, I wouldn't think. So, yeah, we can get on to some of the questions.
Again, the CrossFit would kind of ruin it kind of like spoils the pot a little bit because like this is what they train for. CrossFitters are trained for Physical 100. So, exactly. And like strongmen won't do well in that because strongmen have lost the complete idea of what strongman is, which is take events that are uncommon to everybody and take people from different strength disciplines and then have them test their strength together on an uncommon implement. But now everybody trains to the fucking events, so they don't
exactly. Jamie, Why Black Betty had a question directly for you. He was asking, what do you think causes some bodybuilders to lose their carbs over time, like Ian Valier or Wesley Vissers? I didn't think those guys ever had carbs.
I didn't know people lost their maybe like as you get older, it's not training them. People just stop exercising. Like your test levels don't drop until you're in your 70s, and it's literally directly associated with your level of exercise. So like all of this shit about like HRT and all that is nonsense. Just get up off your fucking fat ass and jog around the block. You don't need a fucking shot of testosterone. But both had world-class calves before sudden atrophy. I've never even heard of this in my life.
Yeah. I didn't know that they did. I'd have to look that one up, Black Betty, because I've never seen their calves before, and I always thought that they were always poverty level calves. That's always been the bane of their existence, their competitive existence. Anyway,
I don't know that I've ever heard of those two guys.
They're popular kind of modern. So Wesley Vissers, he just won the recent Arnold Classic physique. So he's kind of like being compared to like the next Arnold or whatever. But Ian Valier, he was a Canadian bodybuilder, brother-in-law to C-Bum. And he's retired now because, of course, HIT.
I would assume it's either nerve or blood flow related. I mean, it can only be those two things. Either they've trained in some kind of weird way that's given them like some kind of sciatic problem or something. Maybe I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm just theorizing here. But like that's the only way you can get muscular atrophy is a nerve damage or lack of circirculation. Yeah, you can ask
they're too young for lower leg sarcopenia, and when it comes to aging. So they're still only young guys. Jamie, you are.
I will say that everybody needs to be doing third world squats all the fucking time. If you see an animal, drop into a third world squat, pet the animal in a third world squat. You will be astonished at how fucked up your legs are, and you don't even realize it. Like training calves every week is not getting the job done. You got to stretch these fucking things, stretch your feet. And I'm not a foot stretching guy. That's why I'm saying don't do all the rubber band shit. Just fucking drop into a squat and pet an animal. It literally will change your life for real.
Yeah, electronic raisin. We can take steroid questions. We're not probably the best at answering them, but we'll have a go. But yeah, Ditto Head said it's a nerve issue with the calf atrophy. It's well documented. So there you go.
Oh, okay. There you go. To CS. Yeah, I talk the way I write, and I write the way I talk. So I struggle sometimes to stay on a topic, especially when I've got people asking me questions in the middle.
Yeah, and I was mentioning to someone before, because you're quite impressive how you can write. You can work on 5 different things at once. Because if I'm working on some content, I can only do one thing at a time until it's done. But I noticed that you're writing 3 or 4 or 5 different books concurrently, plus all the Instagram stuff. I fucking wouldn't be able to do that. How does your brain process all the different things?
Man, I don't. So when I'm not writing, I'm watching documentaries, and I watch documentaries on every fucking thing you can imagine. We watched a space documentary. We probably watched 5 times yesterday just because I couldn't find anything else to watch. But so I'm always trying to make connections between things, and I find no solace in the repetition of a pattern. Like other people really enjoy like police procedurals and things like that, because there's some kind of comfort in the repetition of that formula, and I don't get any comfort at all. My brain is most comfortable when I'm making new associations between things that I haven't before. So writing about multiple things at the same time and learning about different things at the same time helps me make those connections, I guess. Make those connections nobody else can make. And if I'm not doing 3 things at once, I get really bored. Either that, or I'll start drilling way down into a person like Arthur Jones, and then I'll get off on these weird side tangents about like learning about the history of Rhodesia, which only existed from 1965 till I think about 1973. But that's the Rhodesian Ridgeback, for instance, is named after that place. And the guy Rhodes, who Rhodesia was founded for, was a real piece of shit. But so this is the shit that I get into, and I struggle to stay on topic. I always have, just because I get too excited about learning about things.
So we can expect you to open a crocodile farm and go hunting in Africa very soon then, because it seems like the same way. But speaking of which, when is your HIT training book coming out, Jamie? Because I know that you're very passionate about the topic.
Oh, it's already up on Amazon. It's up on Amazon. Yeah. And it's free. So, speaking of free books though, Geronimo Milo just put out a book it's a 60-page history of lifting. If you guys don't know who Geronimo Milo is, go follow him on Instagram. It's Geronimo with a J, and the dude is awesome. He's a kettlebell dude, but he has access to sources I don't have, because he writes and reads in Spanish primarily, and so he's got all these dope sources I don't have, and he can fill in a lot of the gaps that I have in my knowledge, because he's going to different sources. And the book's fucking free. So just you can either message me for it and I can send you the link, or message him.
Yeah, I'll put Jamie's contact details and the links to his books as well in this description after I finished. But Jamie's correct. That book that Geronimo has released is fantastic. It's beautifully presented, great information, nice, short and sharp, so you can get through it easy. And the pictures that he's put with it make it look really professional. So it's a great piece.
The layout's phenomenal.
Yeah. I'll do a review on it sometime, just to give him a little bit more of a shout out. But we'll have him on the show as well. It'd be great to talk to him.
He's got a book called Kettlebell Secrets Revealed that everybody needs to buy. Like everybody, because it gives you step-by-step instructions on how to do all the kettlebell lifts in like cool diagrams. And then it gives you the history of them and who used these lifts to get the biceps they got or whatever. I mean, it's really a cool ass fucking book. I love that book.
Oh, I'll check it out. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So is running a year-long cycle with bioidentical hormones better than doing a 16-week one with orals or Masteron? It's too hard a question, not knowing your background, your training, your experience, your nutrition, everything else. Yeah, maybe message one of us offline for that one, because then we can at least ask a few more follow-up questions. But
what's a bioidentical hormone?
Yeah, bioidentical hormone is like testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin, I'm assuming, unless I'm wrong. Point me out, but yeah, maybe message us in the DMs, not in my DMs, because apparently my Instagram just got deleted 5 minutes before we got on the show. That's another show altogether, but we're definitely coming up on time. Jamie, people need to rush out. when they watch this.
Why don't we just running a year-long cycle? We'll just say a year-long cycle with injectables is better than doing a 16-week cycle with orals. Is that kind of the question?
I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but we don't even know his steroid history or his health history, which to kind of give him any advice. And I'm saying hypothetical advice because we're not doctors and we don't give advice on the internet to strangers.
And honestly, I don't think I ever got any difference out of. I don't think I really got much benefit out of either of them. But you get way more water bloat out of orals. So if you want to be more like full, go with the orals. I would say.
Yeah,
like D-ball makes you look great. You get that like puffy, tight look. You're tight and puffy at the same time, which is an impossible look to get otherwise. So except you didn't get the fat face
as well. It gives you an excellent cognitive and kind of almost like a slight euphoria when you take D-ball as well. I've never tried D-ball, but yeah, apparently.
I was taking D-ball with one of those stupid fucking Air Force pilot drugs for a minute, and I felt like a fucking god. But yeah, those Air Force pilot drugs are not good. What the hell are those things called? Provigil?
Provigil?
Yeah, Provigil.
Yeah, modafinil. Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to thank everybody for their want to thank everybody for their questions and comments. I want also everybody to go out and get Jamie's new book, Huge Natty Arms. But Jamie, when is the Black Guys one releasing?
I don't have a date on that yet because I had to push it because I'm working on a treatment for a book deal, an actual book deal. I'm getting a book deal. So steroids, I'm going to get steroids published. So I'm doing it with I'm working on it with Greta because she's already published a cookbook and she's awesome. So, it's going to be all of the amazing shit in steroids that we're going to pump it up, add more awesomeness into it, get more of the science aspect of it from Greta, and it's going to pop. It's going to be bagging.
Yeah. So my top 3 books at the moment that I've just, that I've read from Jamie is Huge Natty Arms, which everybody needs to get on with, especially me. Also the bite-sized history, which I'm always raving on about and constantly quoting every episode. I just love it. Reread it again and again so many times. And Axmus. So pick up those 3 and support and help Janie, because if you support and help Janie, you're supporting and helping my channel as well. So rush out there, click the links in the description, guys. It would really help us help him out.
As soon as I can get this book deal, we are going to have a legit YouTube channel. So I am literally going to pull every decent person in this industry up to the top with me, and we will rain down hellfire on everyone below us.
Well, thanks very much again for your time. I'll let you get on with
the day. Do you want to just we got just in the last 6 minutes these comments about so he was asking injectables only like Test and Deca or Boldenone versus orals only. That's an interesting question because usually you hear everybody say take them together. So what's your take?
Yeah, I'm not big on orals, especially if you're like a skinny hard gainer and you need to eat because they trash your appetite. I would stick to injectables.
I've never noticed D-ball doing that.
Yeah. So it can still be a little bit hard on the individual's liver. This is why it's so hard to kind of judge when the individual's talking, because you don't know anything about the history. But yeah.
Iron history, that is incorrect. So Electric Raisin asked, what can I do for my bicep to make it longer if my insertion doesn't go all the way to the elbow? And Iron History said it's genetic. You can't do much. That is actually incorrect. The reason why we have short biceps because we train biceps without training them in a stretch position. And we don't train our biceps in an extended position. So you need to train straight arm bicep movements and you need to train stretched bicep movements, which means every single time that you train biceps, you need to be doing incline dumbbell curls for high reps. We're talking 8 to 12 reps. And you need to be doing like stiff arm, like straight arm front raises with a barbell here. Any kind of straight arm to the side, out to the side, like holding the dumbbell at full extension, shit like that. But you want your arm stretched. The longer you stretch your arm, the longer you'll start pulling your biceps and your triceps out of your armpit. That's the reason why I'm always wearing fucking long sleeve shirts now, is because I am plagued by this armpit problem. And once you get in the middle of fixing it, it looks worse than anything you can imagine. It looks like I literally wrap my arms on sideways. So it's It's terrible, but eventually I will emerge victorious with beautiful arms.
Yeah, I guess because the reason why Black Betty's skeptical is because a lot of people haven't tried it. But
yeah, it's because all of the exercises I'm mentioning went out of fashion by 1960, and people. So we're just used to seeing ugly ass arms now. I mean, C-Bomb's arms look like shit.
Unfortunately, want to thank you again, Jamie. Thanks everybody for your questions and comments, and we'll see you again next week.
Is C-Bomb a nice guy? I feel badly dragging his physique like that because I really I'm not trying to be like that, especially like with Physical 100. Everybody was so positive about each other's bodies and things like that. Like, and just saying to each other, like, you're so awesome and stuff like that. That's not something we say. So I don't know if these guys, if he's a nice guy. If he is, then I feel badly.
He really does come off as a really nice, wholesome, great, friendly, sweet guy. But to me, I don't know. He lacks kind of that Arnold charisma. He lacks he's the Lee Haney of classic physique in 2024.
Except he broke himself with drugs. So he's not even as cool as Lee Haney. He's like a less cool Lee Haney. All right. Then I don't feel badly about dragging him.
There you go. But we've got to have a positivity.
Oh my God. His fan base calls him daddy. And again, there's nothing weird about that. That is, bodybuilding has been that since the dawn of bodybuilding. And I didn't, my recording on the rebounding pull-up beginnings got fucked up. But the rebounding pull-up, for instance, was invented by two guys laying in bed together. And then their wives exclaim from the other room, oh, it's fucking over now. They're going to bed with fucking barbells. So when I say that amphetamines make it impossible for you to be straight, and everybody took amphetamines up until like 1980, there's that. And then again, it's just never been straight. It's never going to be straight. And it's never even going to be something that approaches straight, because at the end of the day, you're looking at an oily man in his panties.
And ain't that the truth? All right. Thanks everybody once again.
You'd cry if you learned Dorian Yates did gay stuff. Then I would say probably don't message Sean too much, because I imagine he could probably pop some stories on you.
Remember, Dorian did go to jail there for a stint. So that's how he got into bodybuilding. And I imagine other things while he was there.
Yeah. The Mentzers certainly weren't straight. So
yeah.
Google that one if you want to. And Black Betty, I hate to break it to you, but I've done gay for pay porn. Literally everybody who's an elite lifter has done gay for pay porn. So it's just, you got to make money somehow, man. It happens.
All right. Thanks again, Jamie. Thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
I'm Jamie for pay. Have a great one, guys.